Okay. So, again, my name's Elizabeth Burke Beatty, and I am the co-director of the Not One More campaign. I am also the founder and executive director of Sea Change RCO and Harm Reduction Center. And I am really happy to be able to lead to open us up tonight. So our next slide is what is organizing? So what do we mean by building power together? Community organizing is creating an arena. This is our arena right here, in which everyday people can lead. We are the ones who are experiencing the problems, and we can identify solutions. We are nothing about us without us. We have three core beliefs. We believe people who use drugs and who struggle with addiction have a right to access healthcare that meets them where they are, is evidence-based, affordable, and empowers them to live healthier lives.
I no longer have not connected.
We believe, our second core belief, we believe there should be transparency, accountability, and oversight of addiction treatment, recovery houses, and drug courts receiving state and federal funding. They should center around providing dignity and compassionate care to people who struggle with substance use. And lastly, we believe in community leadership, meeting people where they are and not leaving anyone behind. When it counts, we come together as good neighbors across rural, urban, and suburban areas and fight for equity in health and human dignity. So tonight we have a very special guest, and before he speaks, we're going to go over some quick updates with you, and then our friend Sam Rivera, the director of OnPoint in New York City, is going to be our guest speaker. But before that, I'm going to pass it over to Alyssa for the updates. Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Tierney, and I'm the lead organizer for the Not One More campaign. And yes, I'm going to do some quick updates. So as you all know, we are trying to get Andy Kim elected to the U.S. Senate. He's always been a champion for things that we care about, and he listens to us, and he listens to like the community, and he cares about what we care about and what we need and the resources that we need. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, but Tammy Murphy dropped out of the race, and Andy Kim also won the line, which means that the ballot will be fair for anybody who is entering the race from here until like for further. So it could be anybody who's entering the race. The ballot is not going to be fixed so that it is like party politics at the top. So that's exciting. And we're still having our hybrid event with him. And a lot of you here helped us come up with the questions for the Not One More campaign. And that we'll be sending that out when that is happening. And then the CSI report. So the report for the abuse that's been happening in the treatment industry, they put a package together of 10 bills. And Senator Gopal's office sent us those 10 bills and asked like for our feedback. So we have a legislative team that is looking at those bills. If anybody here on this Zoom wants to be a part of that, we're meeting on Monday to look over those 10 bills, because we're meeting with Senator Gopal's staffers next Friday, and they want our feedback on those bills. And then KFF Health is tracking the opioid settlement money. I think I spelled opioid wrong here. But we went to their webinar today, and it was amazing. And we're going to put that link in the chat. So if you want to find out how much money your county is getting, they have a really good resource to find that out, like how much money came into your county. So we're going to put that in the chat. And then Vital Strategies is coming to our meeting in June. So last year, we did the first ever in the country deep canvas, where we went out into communities that were heavily affected by overdoses, And we worked with the data analyst and we found out the exact communities that this was happening in. And each weekend we went out, we knocked on doors and we asked, like, what resources do you need? We brought naloxone with us. We had testing strips and we talked to our neighbors and our community members. And then we fought for those resources. So Vital Strategies, part of that is that we gave out $25 gift cards to take an anonymous survey. And a lot of my friends took this survey and they said it was like, they were so kind and they were so nice. So they're going to present the data they collected from those gift cards that we gave out to people. And the last update I have is that we're having an event in Hamilton on May 18th, where we're going to connect people who need resources to the resources. So if you want to be a part of that with us, Not One More is going to be there. Sea Change is going to be there. We're trying to get people, there's like a big tent community out there, and we're trying to get those people connected to the resources they need. So if you want to be a part of that, let me know. And yeah, so that's all the updates that I have right now. And let's get to like the main event. So our speaker tonight is Sam Rivera. He is the executive director of OnPoint in New York, which is an overdose prevention center. And we are going to hear what inspired him to do this work. He's been organizing in his communities for a very long time, and how harm reduction saves lives. So I'm going to pass it over to Sam right now to take over. And we welcome you to the Not One More meeting.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Can you take that ugly guy off the screen? I can see people. Wonderful. Thank you. This is the first, I think it's the first time in a while where I could say how you're doing and I don't have to explain what how you're doing means. It's just, I ask people in other jurisdictions how you're doing and they give me an entire story. They don't know it just means hello to those of us up here. So thank you. It's my pleasure to be here and share this space with you. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible so we can have a conversation. I'd rather really have a dialogue with everyone. And as I mentioned right before this call, I'm sorry, I had a procedure in my throat, so I'm going to sound a little raspy. So yeah, I like Zoom is amazing and it gives us an opportunity to talk to people everywhere, but I'm preferring more in-person meetings. So hopefully I'll get to meet you all in person if I haven't yet sometime soon. So where do I begin? I think I want to talk about, I think it's important for people who do this work to even know where harm reduction came from. A lot of people don't know. And I appreciate this is not just saying I've been in this work a long time and not giving actual dates because that's a little scary. But I was, in the early 90s, we were late 80s, early 90s, we were doing work in HIV and basically trying to keep people alive and created something called harm reduction sort of by default. I'm born and raised on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in New York City. And many of us doing HIV work will go to work, leave work, go home, sort of reset, and then go to what was called shooting galleries and clean syringes and buckets with water and bleach to keep people alive. And one of the blessings around that time for me was my first experience in working with people who were about the work and not about anything about, regarding how we showed up, our skin color, our gender. None of it was as important as keeping people alive. And so it was a very different time. It was beautiful. I became a member of ACT UP. And every time I think of ACT UP, I think we need ACT UP to come back because we're in some ways getting too soft. And I'll contradict myself as to when I came back into harm reduction. But yeah, going back early 90s, harm reduction came out of this movement to keep beautiful people alive. And we had to fight for everything. everything. Every meeting we went to, many people got arrested. I mean, many, many different things we had to do just to get to where we are today, even before this. I'll back up a little more. So my personal journey started while I was in the penitentiary. I wasn't in a correctional facility. I never been to a correctional facility. I heard that's what they call them, but they don't correct shit. So I've been in a penitentiary quite a few times. And especially when I work with women in prison, they were not a correctional facility at all. There were places where a lot of staff and officers would take advantage of women. So I could never participate in that language and call it a correctional facility. So while I was incarcerated, I was coming back from something we call night rec, and I looked into this window broke, and I looked in and I saw men really, really ill, all in white, just very, very sick. And I asked the officer what was going on, and he accused me of breaking the window and told me I looked in the room and I'm going to get the disease that's in the room. Everybody has to leave. And they put me in quarantine and made me sign a form that I wouldn't sue the state of New York because I gave myself this disease. So the next morning I had a call. I called mama's boy for sure. My mom, who many of you know just passed recently. It's been very difficult. But I called my mom and spoke to her. She was a nurse for 42 years on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. After I told her what happened, she told me it's HIV and proceeded to tell me two of my cousins had it. A couple of men she worked with in the hospital had it, and she was already doing work around it. And I'm fine, not to worry about it. Let them panic and I'll be okay. That changed my life forever. I went from running a dorm in the prison as a prisoner to working with a nun and working with these men and giving them some dignity until they died. And that was what the rest of my bid was about. The blessing in that is we ended up, the state opened basically a hospice for these men in Sing Sing penitentiary. And it gave them an opportunity to die with some dignity. And unfortunately, they all died. And so what we would do is write letters to their families, read letters they received, read books to them, watch movies, and just spend time with them. And when I came home, for me, I thought it was gone. Like that was that life. And I'm coming home to a different life. And I went to an organization called the Fortune Society, and they had just opened an HIV program. And I said, I know a little bit about HIV. Maybe I should apply. And that was my first job in 1992. In 1992, I was a counselor at the Fortune. I was like 14 or 13, something like that. I don't remember, but I was a counselor at the Fortune Society and HIV program. And that's where I said, well, we used to go to work, come out, and then do what we ended up creating called harm reduction. And that history is really important in this work because we lost a lot of people not only to overdoses, but many, many people living with HIV and AIDS. So I'm in the work all this time, and harm reduction becomes created. It sort of interestingly happened like in San Francisco and New York and Chicago, some of the biggest cities. And we had a community across the country and almost didn't speak much, but a lot of us were doing the same thing. And I worked in harm reduction on and off for a while. And I wasn't in harm reduction for a number of years directly the way I am now. And when I came back to harm reduction almost 4 years ago now, I wanted to do it differently. I said, we fight for everything in harm reduction and it's worked, but it's time to do it differently and bring love into it. Simultaneously, on my indigenous side, my elders were telling me I was a bad warrior because I fought all the time. And I thought I was confused because I thought a good warrior fought all the time. And they taught me very clearly that a good warrior moves in love and everything first and then fights. And you don't fight first, or else you have nothing else to do in that way. So simultaneously coming into the work, working on my own journey, I showed up differently to harm reduction. I wanted it to look like, in my opinion, the way a lot of it looks today, right? We still have to fight, unfortunately. But we don't open these two OPCs if everybody who came in front of me, I got in their face and yelled at them and told them they're killing people, right? We have to figure out how to do that in the healthiest way. And we've been able to do that. So I got to OnPoint 4 years ago. And when I first got there, to me, it was very typical harm reduction organization, kind of grimy and like, working from the ground up. And I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to look different. I wanted us to give our participants everything they deserve. And I had to call a bunch of leaders in the field and tell them how I was going to do this. And they were like, yeah, whatever. We'll see. You'll start fighting soon. We have to fight for everything. And then I met with Kaylin C. Many of you have met Kaylin or heard her speak. She's our senior director of programs. And she said, we have to open OPCs. And I'm like, shit, like, let me get the organization in some order first. And I didn't think it could happen. I really didn't. And so about a year later, the conversation became very serious. And so what we did as we kept growing the organization. So when I got to OnPoint, we were still two organizations, New York Harm Reduction Educators and Washington Heights Corner Project. We were about 56 staff, $6 million budget. And a week later, a week into the job, I realized it should have been 7 million. So I was very nervous. About 2.5 years later until now, we are 162 staff members and almost $18 million budget. I share that, not as any way in bragging, but to give you an understanding of how you can move through this work strategically, still hold people accountable, still make sure they understand that they're hurting people and their policies are killing people, and at the same time building something and building it in a very healthy way. I wouldn't open an OPC without medical care. I wouldn't open an OPC without food and nutrition and showers. And for me, the person needs to experience all of that. So we kept building all those things as we were moving towards opening an OPC. I have to say, as much as I would love all the credit, even my team, which I have the most amazing team on the planet, that things just really lined up for us in a pretty amazing way. I mentioned before I was in prison. So when we used to have rallies and have protests, I would do everything until they came to arrest. And I was like, all right, guys, I got to go because I'm not getting arrested again. I didn't want to go to jail even for a night. This is the first time in my career where I was okay if the feds came in as was threatened and has been discussed a few times and arrested me for opening an OPC, that I was willing to take that risk. So I get a call from the city and from the mayor's office, and he says, we're ready to open OPCs. And you're like the only, and again, not that we're better than anyone, we just happen to be ready. It didn't mean others. It was just, you have to have the right landlords. You have to have the right facility set up. There's so many things you have to have, and we had it all. I also did a thing where when I came, we were homeless in Washington Heights. So we fixed that. We got a beautiful building there. And what I did in both sites is I got a thing called a leasehold condo. And what that does is it gives the impression, like leasing a car, you own it until the lease is over. And what that does, it takes away the power from the landlord to evict you if they change their mind. Although we have two great landlords who support us, we still want to put ourselves in a position they can change their mind overnight and then tell me they're going to evict me. But with a leasehold condo, they can't, because on paper, I own it for the next 30 years. So we have two leasehold condo buildings in Manhattan, which is pretty crazy, really fair rent, and they can't do anything for 30 years. So in the community, a handful of people in the community, let's be very clear, it's not as big as people like to make it. But the few people in the communities, mostly gentrifiers in Black and brown communities, want us to leave. They can't do anything. We have 30-year leasehold condos. We have the mayor behind us. And at this point, we have almost the whole country behind us. So de Blasio calls, he says, I'm going to do this thing. It sounds great, but he's leaving in 2 months, right? Like at that point, it was like 3 months. And so our fear was, here comes Mayor Adams. Like, where does he stand on this? He's a former police officer. What is his thought on this? And this is why this work takes all of us. Our partners at Vocal New York started to reach out to his team. And in reaching out to his team, they got him to commit to tweeting that he's going to support us in our OPCs. So at that point, it was just the craziest time. 7 days a week. It's been 7 days a week since we opened, but 7 days a week, day and night, fighting, pushing, partnering with the NYPD, which is absolutely fucking crazy. Getting them to agree to so many things they didn't want to agree to, back and forth. The blessing in this is all of this, most of this was captured on film, so there will be a documentary coming out in a few years. It's going to be absolutely amazing. You'll hear me cursing out the mayor and Kaylin and I yelling at people. It's just absolutely beautiful. You'll see the moment we told the staff in a church and everybody cried. I tell you a quick thing. When we were getting all these supplies in for opening the site, we couldn't tell anyone. So we were writing church on these boxes. I don't know. Somebody just came up with the idea. So everybody's like, what's going on? We're opening a church? Like, what is this? And when we made the announcement, we had to do it in the church because at that point we were too big to do it in any space we had. So everybody thought, oh, this is the church thing. We're going to a church and they're going to tell us what's happening at this church. That wasn't the case. But in the beginning, we kept saying we're opening the Church of Holy Consumption and opening this beautiful space. So things are moving literally 100 miles an hour. It is intense. Sleepless nights. We were supposed to open November 8th. I had a big disagreement with the mayor who went to Puerto Rico to Somos in the middle of this. I didn't go so we could stay, my country. And we didn't open on the 8th, but we opened on the 31st of November. And my birthday is the 11th. So I was hoping we could at least open on the 11th for a nice birthday gift. But we opened and it was and it has been the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my life. We made a decision that was risky. We made a decision that had nothing to do with us. It had to do with our participants. As I always said many times, OnPoint opened it as the official organization, but this is everyone's victory. Anyone who's ever lost anyone to an overdose, anyone who's ever used drugs, anyone in this work, all of us cross that line together. Like we don't open it without all of that history behind it. I'll just give you some other quick updates. People ask about the community. I want to be very clear. I just had this very fun debate at the RX Summit with Bridget Brennan, who kept saying we didn't talk to the community. Here's the reality, at least in New York City. Community boards basically have an opinion. I'm not saying that's right. I'm giving the fact. They have an opinion. So when you meet with the community board and you say, we're going to do this thing, they can all say, no, 100%. No, we don't want it. It doesn't mean it isn't going to happen. That opinion gets brought to another table and a decision's made. And how I prove it all the time is to say, like I'm right near Hackensack. The community in Hackensack apparently keeps saying they don't want any more buildings. And every time I drive to Hackensack, there's another building going up. So their opinion is heard, but it's not taken as part of the decision, obviously. So, we opened, the first day we opened, we put candles at every booth to represent all of those who couldn't be with us and we lost to overdoses. That was very, very difficult for us. To date, if we lose someone, we haven't lost anyone in the OPC, but sometimes we lose people outside, or they go somewhere else and use. We will dedicate a booth to that person for a day and light a candle in their honor. We have 2 sites, one in Washington Heights, one in East Harlem. Washington Heights is our peer site, which means all of the staff working there either actively using right now or have been recently using. And then in East Harlem, we have, I'm going to use very huge air quotes, medical model, because medical models around the world mostly have doctors and nurses in the room. We don't. We have folks like you who are trained to respond to an overdose at the rate of an RN. We have doctors and nurses nearby because we have a medical unit nearby. But in the room is folks in the work who love this work and support our people. I'll run through some numbers very quickly. Again, we've been open 2.5 years, and we have more than 4,800 registered participants who use both OPCs. They've used the OPCs 128,000 times. Now, you can take out your phones, 138,000 155 to be exact. And it's going now, so I can say 156, 157. As I'm talking, both sites are open and being used. In New York City, it's estimated that an overdose response costs $30,000. So if you take 128, you want to minus maybe 80 emergency room calls we've made. To be honest, all those calls are about addressing a different issue, not supporting us with the overdose. Once in a while, it would be that we have what is called a domino effect, a number of overdoses back to back. We might send someone to the ER just to make sure they're okay, but it's roughly 80, 90 times of 128,000 utilizations. So if you subtract the number, let's just stay at 128 times $30,000 in 2 neighborhoods. What have we saved 2 neighborhoods in 2.5 years? Anybody want to give me that number? It's a sweet number. And why is it important? Because to run an OPC 24 hours a day costs about $2.5 million. We are saving these just 2 communities in New York almost $50 million. I mean, you just can't argue that. There's nothing you could even say about that. In addition, we're keeping people alive. People are being a lot healthier. People are happy. People reduce their drug use by going to OPCs. This is all fact. This isn't my opinion. They do. The room is a community. What happens in that room is beautiful. We're also learning very quickly that 95% of what we do in the room is harm reduction. So that means we can fund the room differently as well. Because what's not harm reduction, apparently, allegedly, is watching someone use. We don't watch how people use. There's only a couple of times when we do. If we're assisting them, and oftentimes that's if a woman is in a domestic violence relationship and doesn't know how to use, and that's part of how her partner keeps her in that relationship, we teach her, or sometimes him as well, how to use independently. So we have to teach them so that they can move away from that relationship if they choose so. The room is about a community. In Harlem, we have many more people who smoke, so we have a really large smoke room compared to in the Heights. In the Heights, we have more injectors. So all of those things have to factor in when, not if, but when you're going to want to open an OPC. You want to know who your population is, what and how they use, so you can build the appropriate site. I'm trying to go as quick as possible. You know, why do people use? I talk about this all the time. People use the way our people use, and maybe some of you on this call use. When you use to that level at that rate, you're self-medicating pain and trauma or a mental health condition. We've yet to have someone enter our OPC use and say, oh my God, I'm high, I'm having a great time. No, what do our participants tell us? I'm in pain, I'm sick, right? I need something to get well. Listen to the language, it tells you right there. This isn't a party, it's not ecstasy going out to a club. These are folks in a lot of pain. And getting people to understand that really helps too. It gets the community to look at our people differently and not the way they do as bad, dirty people, but the fact that these are people in pain. And it's okay for millions and millions and millions of people to use at home with prescription medication through Big Pharma. That's not a problem. But we look at it, we look at it very differently. As I say often, a lot of times, we are the medicine. The people are the medicine. As an indigenous person, you know, we are the medicine. Even if you give me medicine to administer, it doesn't happen without the human being. It doesn't happen without the caring, beautiful person who cares about the other person. The other thing I say is harm reduction is a part of the recovery process. I have very few people who just wake up and go, I'm not using today. No, most people reduce. Think of a diet. Right? Sounds really groovy. And then you relapse and you go through it again and you keep trying. The reality is what we've known and what I know in my 32 years of this work, I'm saying it now, my 32 years of this work, if anyone believes they themselves have ever stopped someone from using because they're such a great counselor or therapist or anything, they need a checkup from the neck up because it is impossible. People stop when something happens for them and if something happens. As harm reductionists, we don't tell our people to stop using and treatment because they talk about it all the time. They come to us all the time. They see me, Sam, you're going to hire me. I'm going to stop. I'm like, whenever you're ready, we're going to refer you and get you there. We've had people stop right at the booth and say, I'm ready to go to detox right now. We respond immediately. It is an amazing thing to watch someone who's using the OPC every day. And then one day I come in and they're sitting in the drop-in center and they say to me, I'm here. And I'm like, wonderful, it's good to see you. And they go, no, but I'm here. I'm not going to the OPC today. I'm really working this process where I could sit here and not have to use the room. And I'll go upstairs and use our, I have there's a photo, image I'll share with you about all our programs, but our holistic health program, acupuncture, acupressure, massage therapy, etc. Our respite rooms, we're opening a barbershop and a salon. We have showers. We have the respite room. When you come in, you give us your clothing. We'll wash your clothing for you. You take a shower, you go in the room and take a nap. We try to give you more clothing or switch that clothing out while you're in the room taking a nap. The staff in there. We have aromatherapy in the room. If couples in the room and they have to separate when they go to shelter, we let them put a couple of cots together. They could throw a leg over or something, a little cuddle, but not too much. But at least some physical contact. One of the things I say about respite is you'll see women, especially women, homeless women, will sleep during the day on a park bench or something because of safety. They're very afraid of sleeping at night in a park. So think about all those things as you're creating your programs. I don't know, I'm sure we do drug testing as well. I'm sure I miss many things. I really want to give an opportunity for discussion. Oh, I want to give one thing that more as a warning in this work. Many people are saying we need to hire peers and peers and peers. I want you to be careful of language. So the peer movement also started back in HIV. And really where it came from was people who were on benefits, who couldn't work full time. We would call them peers, and we pay them a certain amount so they don't lose their benefits. And that went on for years and years and years. Today, peers on my staff, on our staff, work full time. So they're peers by similar or like, lived experience. But I want to be careful about using peers when we say hire peers and people think, oh, I'm going to get a really hardworking person for half the price. No, we need to hire our peers full time, pay them full time money, make sure they have livable wage. I'm very proud of where our wages are today. And the other thing I'll say, and this comes back to my mom, I'm trying not to talk about her because I'll fucking lose it. My mom's my idol. She was a nurse, 42 years in New York City, taught me all of this, taught me how to treat people, taught me so many things. And you hear me say we love on people until they're ready to love on themselves. That's from my mother. And so, doing this from a place of passion and showing up the way we show up is what will get us, to this next place. And so, looking at anytime I talk about anything I've done that's successful is really honoring my mother, who didn't give up on me when I went to prison and instead got me to where I am today. So I ended there. I'm sure there's so much more, but I'm worried about time. So I'm just going to stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I feel like this is the first time like our chat hasn't been going crazy because everyone's been listening to you speak. And oh my God, so now I'm gonna open it up, which is like my favorite part of the entire night. So yeah, I'm gonna open it up right now to everybody. And yeah, your mom is still looking down on you. I see, like, so proud of you, and you're gonna see signs. Um, so yeah, raise your hand or come off mute if you want to start the dialogue.
Not all at once now. You want me to keep talking? I'll keep talking.
I can't come on camera and I'm not speaking too loudly. I'm trying to help someone get into the shelter. I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing. It's awesome. I definitely would like to connect with you because I really need a lot of education in this area. You spoke about a lot of different things that I definitely agree with. Um, I'm from New Jersey, so it's a lot different here. We're trying our best to um, elevate in this area. I'm a resource center in Patterson, New Jersey, and we started out with just mothers and children. However, the area that we are in uh, led us to widen our horizon, I guess you may say. So we also serve, we also harm reduction as well. And it took me a long time to even understand the harm reduction. And I get it. It's very helpful. and I love the work that I'm doing. And I admire the work that you guys are doing. So I definitely want to get your information so I can pick your brain and you can help us over here in New Jersey.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Tanya.
Hi, Sam. Thank you. I've heard you speak a few times and it's always so powerful. We did a webinar with Kaylin, with NCAR, which we're planning on doing another one as well. And we're coming to visit in May, which I'm very excited about that. I know that you did a lot of renovations recently. I think we were trying to get in before and they said there were a lot of renovations. I know you're going to show pictures, but it's what's amazing to me is that all of these services that you have that are holistic, you know, we can't even get these services for people in just even a recovery center. You know, everything is so difficult. And you think with this opioid settlement money, we could do something, but everything has to be, for example, if you want to do acupuncture, you know, we have to have evidence-based. And even though we know it works, it's very difficult to get anything approved. Do you have any suggestions for us with the opioid settlement money, how we can move towards some of this holistic treatment while we wait to get an OPC opened?
Definitely. So there are some evidence-based studies on acupuncture. I could, you know, when you come visit, we'll connect you with our staff and our team in our holistic health program. I've been an acupuncturist since 1992 as well. So most of what we're doing in the room is 5-point auricular acupuncture. One of the things we did, who can afford 10 to 15 acupuncturists full time? None of us can. So what we did is we partner with the Pacific Institute, which is the School of Acupuncture in New York City. And basically their students come to us as a residency. So if you're working and you want to learn acupuncture and you want the most challenging participants with many ailments, why wouldn't you come to OnPoint, right? So they're learning a lot. It's free for us. They're paying the school. We give them the space. And it's really a benefit. So there are a number of ways around it. As far as the opioid settlement fund, this is where we got to go back to fighting because what they're doing is really, really out of control. I mean, in New York State, the governor's not giving us anything, but she's giving us money through other means. But we're running, you know, she's getting all the credit for the state that's running the New York model of harm reduction and the New York model of OPCs in the country. But she's not paying a dime for it. And the opioid settlement fund dollars are for the people we work with. So we have to demand that money and hold the people's feet to the fire and also ask them, where's this money going? Listen, a lot of treatment facilities have a lot of money. Most of them have plenty of money. Putting more money into the treatment facility isn't the answer, right? So, and it's amazing. But by the way, I was just at the RX Summit. The head of SAMHSA wants to have a meeting with a harm reductionist and talk about what do we do next, which is rare. You know, they just started talking about harm reduction. They put out a grant, which is pretty shitty, but they did it, right? And we have to, that's a starting point. But we have to stand up and demand that those opioid settlement dollars come directly to harm reduction organizations and even just small organizations who deserve it to grow a program. So I would say around the holistic health, listen, we have bees on our roof. I don't know if I even mentioned that. We have OnPoint honey. I have a jar somewhere. But, you know, you know, being as creative as possible, trying to figure out. I got the bees on the roof thinking it'll be great for participants, and it ended up being therapy for staff. So I just said, okay, that's good. The staff go up there, put their bee suits on, and mess with it. It's so freaking cool. And quite frankly, like I hate honey, but I never had fresh honey before. That's why I don't like store-bought honey. Our honey is amazing. So when you visit, you might get a little bottle of it. But yeah, you know, the thing I'll say to you, Tanya, is to be assertive. Oh, baby, hi, baby. Is to be assertive. It's even get close to aggressive sometimes, but to demand this. And part of it is to make it public and make it clear that you know, these dollars were fought by death, right? And make sure that we get the right money to open our programs. But the other thing I'll say quickly is just we created a model, borrow the model, right? Use it and show that it works. We're showing that it works. We're putting out our year 2 report very soon as well. So hopefully that'll help.
Elizabeth, you're next.
Sam, thank you so much. That was I've so much. I lived on Lower East Side for many years in 1992, 1990. Um I saw a lot of friends also die, and I saw that struggle up front and personal, and I didn't know that about you. So thank you for sharing that. And it's, I guess I don't really even know what I want to say. It's just hard to watch people die. It's really hard to watch and not do anything. And I think that's, why we're here. And I think that's why we started this. And I know Alyssa and I, who pretty much, and Amanda, we run this campaign with all of you. We can't do it with everybody without everyone that's here. The numbers are so important to do things like get the settlement funds where they belong.
Right.
It's one thing to educate someone, but it's another thing to take 30 people with you to a meeting of a policy maker, or to meet with the press and share the stories. And I think those are the things we are really working hard on doing. The other thing I was thinking about is, and this is just something I really feel like sharing because I've never shared it in this group, and you reminded me of it. Like when I was at this point of deciding whether or not I wanted to dive into opening a full harm reduction center here, I went to a lot of my community members and they were like, don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to get, the cops are going to follow you. You're going to get pulled over. You're going to get in trouble. You might, like, it's pretty, it's so conservative here. It makes me crazy. And I remember, and you made me want to share this because I remember like thinking, you know what? I don't care. It's worth it. Like, go ahead. But, and also what you said about like, I'm also trying to meet my community where they are, these people that don't understand the importance of this and how this saves lives. So I'm not fighting. I'm trying to help people understand that this is life-saving. And I guess you really inspired me to feel like I'm doing the right thing and just validating that. And the other thing, Tanya mentioned is one of the ways we've been able to give people all of those kind of services like acupuncture and Reiki and, is that we just go out and partner with people that do it. And we take our people there and they do it for free. And I mean, I'm sort of, do the right thing. And if I have to ask for permission later, I'll deal with it. Like, I just, it's not wrong. It's just not wrong to give people the care they deserve. And there's so many, I think, innovative ways to creatively like fight the battle. And I'm really trying to do that. And it's people like you that keep me going. I gotta be honest with you, and it's hard to leave Manhattan and move to rural Jersey and not see all the people that I love and love
Right.
being with on trains and everything. But it's a different kind of fight, and it takes a New Yorker, I think, even to do some of this work in these rural areas. So I'm just really grateful. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'll share a couple of quick things. We are creating a virtual tour. Again, please come visit. Seeing it in person. If you have any question, I mean, we've had people come in who say this is terrible and come in and leave there crying and saying, oh my God, I didn't expect this. They expect a dirty place. They expect to open the door and people just using drugs. They're blown away by how it operates and how we do it and how we treat people. So but we are creating a virtual tour, which we should be having out in the next month or so. We're excited about that. I kept saying, why is it when there's someone selling a house, you could just go through the entire house by clicking buttons? Why don't we do that for us? And so they're waiting for me to narrate. My voice is coming back, so I'll do it. So there'll be a New York accent, so just bear with me on that. Another very important thing, very quickly, you know, we're coming up on 1,500 overdose interventions. We're only using naloxone 18% of the time. 18%, that's it. We don't use Narcan, we don't use nasal, we use intramuscular, which is versus 4 milligrams, we use 0.4 milligrams, and we can just escalate at that low rate, microdosing. Oxygen is our biggest tool we use. We have oxygen now on our outreach in public safety vehicles. We have a number of vehicles in the community. Since we opened, including the community and both OPCs, we've been able to dispose of almost 3 million units of hazardous waste that never hit the community, that never went out there. So the community is saying, we don't want public use. We don't want people leaving their paraphernalia in the kids' parks. We don't want our kids seeing us. We don't want people dying in the community. We said, okay, we're responding to your request by bringing them in. Their plan was hopefully we could eliminate the people, but we responded to their request. And I'll just say this before we move on. I know with some other people with questions. 2 things. One, I'm trying to read all your comments. I really appreciate them. So I hope I get to see them all. And the other thing, I think we should sit down pretty soon here in New Jersey, even if it's just a few of us, get together and, you know, have a conversation about some strategy and figure it out. Again, I am from the Lower East Side. I am a New Yorker, but I live here. And anything I can do to support you guys, I'm ready. Yeah. So.
We appreciate that. Yes, and I 100% agree. We definitely need to do that. John, you were up next, and then Casey.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Elizabeth and Alyssa, for setting this up. Truly great. I met you both at a conference a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure if you remember. Sam, thank you so much. It's tremendous work. I come from a little bit of a unique background. I'm a retired homicide detective in New Jersey. And prior to that, I was a special victims unit detective. And I was hired by a company called Pinnacle Treatment Centers. And my title is Director of Criminal Justice, which is really a nice way of saying my role is to get out there and to talk to police departments, jails, courthouses, and really anyone and everyone that will listen. That one jail is certainly not the answer for this problem. And I'm curious, I'm sure there's not one thing or 2 things that you did, but I'm sure there was a lot. But I am kind of curious how you were able to get through to the police department, the mayor, the council, and if you have any advice on that. And I'll end right here real quick, because I do think everything happens for a reason. It's April 11th. I just realized, and in 1 month I'll be celebrating my 3rd year of sobriety. So
Wow.
I am
Bless
covered.
Bless you.
And I truly respect everything you guys are doing. I think harm reduction is key, and I think it's misunderstood by a lot of people, especially in my old profession. And I would love to try to change that stigma if possible. So thank you, first and foremost.
Wow. Man, you just made my night. Thank you for that. Yeah, so this is one way, right? Is exposing what we do. First, thank you for your work, and you know, looking at sort of how we broke that barrier. You know, one of the things we need to talk about more is this is a health intervention, right? And removing that from the drug use and the criminal side. It's a health intervention. People are dying. People are dying in this outrageous rate. These are beautiful, kind-hearted people who are in pain. And then now, why are you blocking us from giving them a health intervention they need right now, right? And I really like what you said, like 3 years sober and respecting the harm reduction movement is a big deal. So one of the things I wanted to say before I didn't get to say is, I'm sure most of you are on social media, like tweet and post and post and post and make people uncomfortable, right? Like my own family, who knows my work for years, I realized they didn't always pay attention. You know, I have family members call me and go, I just heard somebody yelling about you because you on some news channel or something. What the hell are you doing? And when I tell them, they go, wait a minute. And they don't get it either, right? They don't get it. They see what this world talks about our people. I'm letting people come in and use drugs at our site. No, I'm working with people who are using drugs anyway and creating a place of safety and love and compassion for them. and watch what happens, because 70+%, I'm going to give you the low number of our staff of 160 have all lived experience, right? So how is it that someone who was using drugs, whatever, drinking, whatever it is, suddenly changed that, or in a process changed that? One of the fears I'll say to you in the work and in the world is, do you see what happens when people stop using? Do you see what happens to them? It's pretty fucking amazing what they accomplish, right? Suddenly life is very different. The thing that I will say, this isn't a shot at NA or NA, I don't want anybody yelling at me, but this seems to often be, and my brother has 30 years, by the way. So it seems to always be this piece missing in the process, where I will go to an anniversary and I hear people say, this is, my friend Jim, and Jim stopped using, and now he has a big house and 2 cars, and he's married, he has 2.5 kids, and he has this beautiful, all this stuff. And if you stop using, you could be like Jim. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck happened in between that? Like, it wasn't that simple. You stop using and you're going, why am I anxious? What's going on? Oh my God, all these things I was self-medicating. Do I need, prescription meds? What do you need, right? So all of that. We want to look at the entire process. The other thing is, if you're someone who's actively using and you stop and you get in a program, whatever it is, please don't think you now belong to this other crew and you're in the better class, right? Like, please remember where you were. Please lean back and lean into people who are still active and what they need. So I'll tell you quickly about the police and everything. It really was a discussion about making their jobs easier too, right? Like, they were like, wait a minute. I said, you're arresting people who you see back in the street how often? And they're like, oh, we see them 2 days later. So what's that feel like? Like, why do you want to keep doing that? Do you like it? Police officers, when we met with them privately, when we went to roll call, we met with them, they were like, no, we hate this shit, right? I got into this for one reason, and now I feel like I'm just battling people. So we also asked them to try it. Let's see how it works. And to hear beat cops say to us, man, I used to walk down the block and people would run. I walk down the block now and I talk to them. And I have seen many beat cops walking people to our program instead of arresting them. There's a sense of community they feel as well, right? There's a sense of inclusion they feel on that side as well, right? We know that 95% of people who enter prison leave prison. If you're working with prison and say, all of these people basically are leaving. You want them to leave worse than they were when they came in, right? People forget too, prisons were created to help you get better. We use prisons to punish people. The punishment was to remove you from the community, not to hurt you more while you were in prison. The reality is they're penitentiaries created by the Quakers, so you can do penance and get well, not go to prison and be punished, right? So in those conversations, John, is also, finding out what will get, what conversation or what comparison or what analogy will get this person to hear you, right? Some people use religion, God doesn't want, I have this group of people write to me every month saying how terrible I am and I'm not doing God's work. And I said, well, I don't know. Jesus was the first outlaw I ever read about. And if Jesus was here, he'd be in the room washing feet while people are using. That's just a reality based on fact. And so, and I say it lovingly, not for any fight, but to talk about, let's be real in this process. People are hurting, and should we throw them out? No way. So, the other thing I'll say is the folks in New York, the police officers in New York, Chief Tobin, who's a real big shot in this work in New York, will be happy to talk to law enforcement folks in Jersey as well. So, John, if you want to connect, we can figure out how to do that as well. But it's been an amazing success. And it's also important for us as the organization to acknowledge the NYPD, which a lot of people have a hard time with. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have a partner like them, the way they've shown up for us and the way they've shown up for our participants, and not acknowledge them. I think that would be a bad move. So I acknowledge the 2 precincts we're working with and all the work they put in, the DAs who support what we do. There's a lot of law enforcement involved, and not in the way we're used to. So it's a blessing.
Thank you so much, truly.
Yeah, I said our director always says Jesus was the best organizer. And I think we have an assignment that we're all coming together at our staff meeting to talk about Jesus was an organizer.
straight outlaw. First, I mean, I'm a History Channel. That's my thing. I gotta watch all this stuff. I'm like, man, this guy was an outlaw. I like,
Right?
that's the Jesus I know.
Yeah.
You saw what
All
he hung
right.
out with.
Wait, Elizabeth, do you want me to pass it to you? And then anyone else who has questions? I don't know if Sam can stay on or not.
I'm staying on. You guys got me. It's the first thing I've done since losing my
Aw.
mom where I feel,
Aw.
so I'm glad
This feels like you were meant to be here tonight with us. I don't know why.
thank you.
All right, well, okay, Kathy King, who is a long time one of our members, she's been with us since the beginning. She wanted to ask, what do you do with people who use drugs and have a real medical need for pain medication and can't get it?
We who is that? Kathy? Where is she? Is she not on screen?
No,
Kathy,
she's here.
right
She's
there.
on screen. She's on
Um,
screen.
One of the blessings in opening the health hub is we get to prescribe. And I'll tell you something. Watch how I say this. I know that there are things my staff will do to support our participants that I don't know about. you know, and and that's okay too, right? That's okay too. But yeah, we have a medical team. We have one doctor, again, strategically. We partner with Mount Sinai, we get their doctor for one day. We partner with another hospital, we get their doctor for one day, right? There's all this, a lot of, if you think of the organization and how we run it, it's 18 million, which is a lot, it's a big, but in New York City, there are many bigger, much more, much bigger. But we operate like a $40 million organization because of all the acupuncturists we get free. The medical folks we get through a contract where we find a contract that says that, let's say the opioid settlement fund dollars in New Jersey is paying a hospital to do some opioids, to do some work with people who use opioids, and you go there and find out they're not doing much, tell them to come to your site, right? Which is really the way we created the relationship with Mount Sinai. Not that they weren't getting people, but we knew we had people, right? Almost everyone walking into our site were folks who use opioids. That's how we got them to come in. So a lot of that creation. The other thing is really connecting people to true care, right, Kathy? So one of my favorite things is when I come in and somebody shows me they have a doctor for the first time in their lives, 50 years old. Like I have a doctor and they walk around, they're so proud of it. And you better jump around and celebrate it with them because this is a big deal. Someone saw a dentist for the first time in 20 years, right? It's a big deal. It's not a simple thing. It's a victory for our people. And again, having lived experience myself helps because I tell people, listen, I'm you. I just got here before you. There's none that fucking special about, whatever, I've been through so much and so much pain. The other thing I'll come back maybe and talk about this more is, embracing and learning about my own trauma. And especially for men, women are much stronger than us and much more open about embracing their trauma and talking about it. And not all, but most women are really, really strong and leaders in that way where many men aren't. Especially when you're a big tough guy like me, to be able to talk about traumatic experiences, it kind of gives license to people to do the same. So I've been talking about more and more the fact that I'll just say this: when I was working at Fortune Society, I had a crush on this woman I used to work with, and cute redhead, had a crush on this woman I work with, and we were colleagues, and we always flirted. It was just really cute, and twice she would leave work early, and I'm like, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "I have to go to therapy," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, you go to therapy? How, you go twice a week?" So I thought right away, if she goes twice a week, I might have to go 5 times a week, right? Because I've been, and I end up going to therapy, right? I'm like, let me check this out. Because black and brown people, we don't go to therapy. Therapy's for crazy people. So we were taught you don't go to therapy. So I go to therapy, and I'll fast forward to this important question. The therapist says, "Why were you in prison?" And I said, I got arrested, right? Like, no, why were you in prison? I'm like, well, I was involved in organized crime and I did some things and I fucked up and I'm in prison. No. Let's get deep. Why? How does a kid, baseball scholarship at 17, goes to college? How does that kid did well, loves his mom and, good kid. How does that kid put himself in a position in life where he's willing to die, right? Being involved in what I did in the street, going to prison, prison, I don't care what anybody says to you, the potential of dying every day is real. Especially I've been in maximum security prisons as a young, I used to be cute. I'll show you a picture. I was cute when I was younger. Those days are gone, but you go to prison, a young cute guy, it's a whole other experience. And so how does a person willingly put themselves in that position? And then we got into it and realized that, I had to accept the fact that when I was younger, I was in positions in my life where I was unable to protect myself, and I experienced trauma in the deepest, most painful way. And how it showed up was through anger, and how it showed up was through doing all these things and putting my life at risk. Because those of us who experience that level of pain, in many ways, if you feel worthless. So learning about that for me early on in my process, although I'm still working on it, believe me, it's not done, is healing as well. So as much as we can talk and create a space that's safe for people to talk about their trauma, and relate to it and understand it. So now I know when I eat something bad, it's kicking up. So if I go get fried chicken, I'm going to a traumatic experience, right? Those kinds of things. So yeah. So I think someone else has their hand up.
Casey's our last person to put her hand up.
Hi, everybody. I'll be quick for a change. Thank you, Alyssa and Elizabeth, for setting this up. Thank you, Sam. I really I learned a lot tonight, a lot. And I'm in long-term recovery. I am abstinent based. That's what saves my life, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's going to save yours. It could kill you. And that's
Mhm.
the bottom line. The community I'm in, a lot of the people that I'm in recovery with, I couldn't even talk about this. I wouldn't even bother. Waste of energy. So save it for people who will listen, right? I'm just blown away by the work you're doing. Like, that's huge. I've never heard of this on such a large scale, and thank you. And would you be willing for any of us to contact you after today just to ask some questions?
Yes, definitely. I believe both Elizabeth and Alyssa have my information. So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And again, I
Yeah,
want
and
to.
we could use guidance in the state about the settlement money. It is everything's behind a veil. It's horrible. So sounds like New York's not doing much better, but
Right.
yeah, anything you could share with us would be welcome.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I want to do more out here. So I even travel south. It's at least you guys have beaches down there.
Thank you
But,
so much.
and I need a tan. I haven't had a tan in a while. But yeah, let's figure this out. We'll share the information. I don't know if Veronica's still here, but yeah, we'll get you my information. Oh, there she is. And we'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm available. I'm reachable. I'm busy, traveling and everything else, but this is my life, literally. Yeah, whatever I could do. And I appreciate also, again, folks in long-term recovery who can, not turn their backs, and understand the pain that people are currently in. And one of the things I did when I came home from prison, I kept my boots, and I would put my boots in my closet. So every day I went to get clothes, I would see my boots and remember, like, dude, it wasn't that long ago, right? Like, this process is forever, right? This trauma I experienced is forever. It's forever. There's no getting over it. I hear too many people even say that to women, like, get over it. It's the sickest thing you could tell somebody, right? So this process is forever. And so yeah, doing the work and being available is important. I forgot to mention earlier, in my indigenous tradition, I'm not smoking weed. If you see this, it's
I knew
actually,
what you were doing.
yeah. So we're in what we would call powwow gathering. So we burn. I don't know if you know this, but one of the things that we will say is still true is smoke signals. Native people, we pray into fire. And our belief is that the smoke takes our fire up to the creator and spreads our prayers to the smoke. So when you hear natives say smoke and prayers, that's what they mean, is we pray into fire. So when we share our fire, it's sharing medicine, etc. So in this gathering, I like that medicine for all of us in this space.
Yes. And then the last person who has their hand up is Sarah, who I met in DC. Hey, Sarah.
Hey,
Sarah,
hey Sam. Hi,
hey, no,
Hi,
Sam, that's not my
Lisa.
name. What's my name?
Hey, Shmuley. What's
Shmuley,
up?
that's me.
I have to sneak back into a staff meeting, but I just wanted to thank you. And also, I used to be in 12 step and I just like let that go. But I wish there was some way to bridge the gap. As someone now who's really into harm reduction and works a lot with harm reduction, I feel like there's this giant just space that's missing because it's people that are, okay, they're abstinent, that's what's working for them, and then people with harm reduction are trying to help people that are to do better, and and it saddens me, and I wish for some advice, or what do you think on the subject, how it seems like there's this schism between harm reduction, 12 step, where we're constantly like, oh, not to upset 12 step, oh, not to upset harm reduction, and it's like this unspoken thing I see constantly that I feel like you are the person I'm going to ask.
Yeah, it's troubling. It's troubling. Again, this is why I say I think when people we live in a society where everybody likes to be in groups, and the belief is if you get to this other group, it's a better group, right? Uh, and then people don't want to look back, right? And I think that in the beginning of this process, when you first go into a process of healing, you hear that you're supposed to give what you received, right? And people tend to forget that. And to me, the thing that I look at with people either in recovery or in treatment programs, not liking harm reduction. It's interesting. Now we're having a lot of treatment people liking harm reduction, and unfortunately, it's because there's now money going into harm reduction. We saw that the same thing in HIV. Suddenly, everybody's a harm reductionist, right? And so we have to watch that too, right? So the balance in that is and this is one thing I feel really blessed about is apparently I've been able in my conversations and maybe the way I present it, open people up to hearing it differently, right? To talk about the human being, to talk about the pain, instead of saying people have the right to use and that's it. To me, it's deeper than that. Why do we have to make it about that, right? The other thing is, why do we identify ourselves by the worst thing we've ever done, right? So I'm a drug user. I would meet a lot of people say, yeah, I'm a former prisoner. No, you are a person who's been in prison. That's not who you are. That's a part of who you are, right? So I'll tell you something. My mentor, David Rothenberg, 90 years old, started the Fortune Society. One of the greatest things he ever said, someone from the New York Times reached out to us and wanted to do a piece. And they said, I want to know all the things you did, all those things that got you in prison and all those things and all those things. And David said, why is that important? Like, what's the worst thing you've ever done? Did you wet the bed when you were 6 years old? So you can say Sam Rivera did all these things if you're willing to write Joe Brown bedwetter at 6 years old. Like, let's talk about the shit you did, right? So it's like people want to forget those things, but that's a part of who we are. It's not who we are. It's a part of it. So it's the thing in recovery. And this is what I'm talking to all of you. If you don't, I'll say this to you, if you heard something here you like or a bunch of things you like and you just keep it to yourselves, then you're failing, right? If you call someone, write to someone, get on social media somewhere and share this, you don't have to say my name, I don't care, but share it. I had an interaction today and it makes me think of this because more people hear it and it becomes part of the norm, right? It becomes part of the process. I'm at the RX Summit. It's the law enforcement illicit drug conference. They hate our work. Not anymore. Last year I was on a plenary, right? We had the first plenary ever on harm reduction. This year it has 7 sessions on harm reduction. So this is how we do it, right? Now, those same people who saw me last year when I walked in the room were like, oh, we don't like this guy. Were coming over to me and asking for photos and hugging me and thanking me. So part of that is that's part of look at Mobilize too, right? Mobilize has been known as I'm not saying I think Mobilize is amazing, but it's been known as everywhere, a bunch of people would go and it would be like, we're all clean. It was like that was the perception of it. And for the leadership to embrace harm reduction the way it has in Mobilize and all these other places, it starts to change the conversation and it starts to create a shift in that way. And so for me, the biggest thing is to talk about our participants as who they are, beautiful men, women, uncles, aunts, mothers, daughters, and not say, you know, always calling them drug users, but they're much more than that. And also if you're a person who is in recovery and you have a recovery group or people you talk to in recovery, is to hold them accountable, right? To hold them accountable. I see so many contradictions, right? Like if you read the steps even, right? They can't, you if you're going to follow a guidance, you can't just remix them to make them fit what you want, right? If you're really going to help someone else or be there for someone, then you should try to be there for everyone. And, you know, not everyone's perfect, not everyone's close to perfect, but being available and doing this is, and my plan is to become a consultant soon and enjoy life. I don't want to be like many of my colleagues who work to their fucking 80. That's not going to be me. I'm going to enjoy this. And so we need a lot of you to step up so I could just come visit you and maybe you could give me a consulting job and I could just watch you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, my plan is to teach it and push it forward so that especially your younger folks can step in and do it better than I have, yeah, look at me. It's been the last 4 years. I was 28 years into this work. I've done a lot of things. I mean, I ran a national organization. I've done a lot. But 4 years, 28 years into the work, and suddenly this thing hits. Like suddenly, I take a job I don't want and harm reduction. Like we say, is the plan isn't ours. We just have to participate. The plan isn't ours. I'll share this quickly. The end of 2017, I was hit head on my motorcycle, head on. I was basically dead, right? And had shattered knees, shattered ribs, clavicle, 3 fractured vertebrae in my back, a traumatic brain injury. I studied for 6 months. And coming through that whole experience, I remember talking to my mom and saying, oh my God, I'm left here. I'm still alive for something. And it's kind of cool to realize, I guess the something was to open 2 OPCs. I didn't know what
Yes.
it was. And of course to be here for my beautiful kids. But yeah, it's when I watch that whole journey, it's pretty amazing. And so I look forward to hearing your journeys and coming to places and watching you speak, and I'll be in the audience clapping and enjoying your stuff. So, if I could do this, believe me, I mean it. If I can have this level of success and have some change and have, the feds talk to me and the White House talk to me about my thoughts. I am going to be posting something hopefully tonight or tomorrow where I'm going to be on Twitter and other places. My team laughs when I say Twitter, but I'm going to be on Twitter and other places talking about it's time for us to have a harm reduction czar in this country. We've had an AIDS czar, a drug czar. It's time for harm reduction czar. So I will be
Yes.
posting that. If you see that, repost it. Let's get this movement going. And actually a dear, dear, dear friend of mine I mentored a little bit, just became the AIDS czar. And I'm just like, Francisco, that is so fucking badass. So yeah, let's make that happen. So I'll shut
Let's
up.
make that happen.
Make that
Yes.
happen.
This is the first time in all of our meetings that people have stayed through the parking lot. But I'm going to kick it to Elizabeth to just close us out.
All right. All right.
Like this has never happened.
I don't even want to talk about next steps. Let's go. You can just shut that down. You guys know that we can talk about May 18th next time. Actually, yeah, it's all good. I don't want to spoil the vibe. This was amazing. Thank you for opening up. Just heartfelt.
No.
I feel you. I appreciate you. I can't wait to work with you. And it's been a huge service, you being you tonight. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I don't know, Veronica, if you sent my email, but you can share my email. Yeah, reach out. Let's talk. Let's figure out next steps. Does Erica and Alyssa, do you have my number?
I think I don't know. I
Okay.
don't I don't know.
We'll get it.
I put I emailed my cell phone, so you could text that.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's get on
Yes.
the steps. Thank you all
Let's-
for letting
And
me
we
invade
will-
your Thursday
We
night.
always do a follow-up email about tonight, and so we can send out the recording if you guys want to share it with anybody that missed it. And then we'll also share, the little tidbits at the end that I feel like skipping over because this was too good to
Yeah.
get all on paper again.
And
But
please get on your social media. And again, you could just talk about the gathering and what we discussed. Like, get it out there. When you have this energy, if you're feeling inspired by this is the time to get out and share it and get people
that's
motivated.
right. That's right. That's
Who's
right.
Kathy? See, this is why I like to look at people. Kathy is so beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. This is why I like to look at people.
My mom's on here too, by the way.
Where's your mom? Where?
Dora Lynch.
She's hiding.
She's
Oh,
now-
Dora.
look
There
at
goes
her, look at
Dora.
her
You got nice
face.
red glasses. I was
Where
checking
is
out your
Dora?
glasses
I don't
before.
see Dora.
She's right there.
Dora.
She's talking.
Oh,
but
my
she's
God.
on
Dora,
mute.
you're hiding. She's hiding behind her name.
I was
Hi,
checking out her
Dora.
glasses before.
She is
Hi,
so,
Kathy.
but she's yelling at me through the thing. She doesn't know she's on
muted.
mute.
She's
Why did you do that?
muted.
Shout out to the moms.
Wow.
Shout out to your mom, Sam. She
Thank you.
did good with you.
She
Yeah.
did really good. Yeah.
She's
And
Yep.
yeah.
and you're gonna see signs. I
Yeah.
promise.
I have been.
You have, right? They're like all of
yeah.
a sudden you see all these signs.
Oh yeah. She's
And
here
you're
right
just
now.
like,
believe
oh
me.
my, it's like it gives you chills.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So thank you.
Oops.
Who's that? Hey.
Who do we
This is-
got?
This is my
Oh,
mom. So I figured I'd say
Hi.
That's
I
your
love
mom?
this person.
Love
Ooh,
mom.
I love Shiloh. Okay.
It is a mom night.
It's a mom night. Thank
It's a
you.
mom
Thank
night.
you. I would know. I thought I would be upset, but no, I'm good. I'm glad to see moms. Moms are important.
It's a sign.
It's especially in our traditions, right? Women. So it's interesting. I belong to a club called Red Rum, and people are like, "Oh my God, it's that movie." No, it's not. Native is Red Drum, or it's the life. It's the life's blood of Mother Earth, right? So Mother creates life. So we say the ever-loving flow of Mother Earth. And without blood and the blood of Mother, we don't exist. So in Native community, that's how we say it. And I will say that there's somebody really famous in my club that I would think a number of you might like. Really, really think about the most famous indigenous person out there who's really good looking. Everybody goes crazy over.
The
And what I
Rock?
hate- and what I hate is actually he's the nicest guy too, which makes it even worse. But who is it? He gave some of us this ring. I don't know if you can see it. But.
Oh,
And in his new movie, he's wearing our cut for about 10 seconds, 3 seconds. Who is it?
who is it?
I said The Rock.
No, Jason Momoa.
Oh, I love
Oh,
him. Oh my God, I love him so much.
Yeah, he's
Oh
in
my
our club.
God, I love
He's in-
him.
Oh,
He's in our club. He's a great guy.
that's amazing.
But Shiloh, is that? I can't see your name.
Yes.
Shiloh.
that is-
Your
Yes.
mom looks like your sister.
I love this guy.
Look at
I'll hang
her.
with
Oh
you
my-
anytime.
What's that?
I'll hang with you anytime.
Let's hang. You got to get on a motorcycle though if you're gonna hang out.
Ooh,
So-
Uh-oh.
I like it. I have a biking jacket. I have a leather jacket.
Oh, there you go. You're ready. You're ready. Oh my God, this has been so nice. As you said, I lost my mom recently, and it's been
Oh.
extremely painful.
Yeah.
My idol, the greatest woman on the planet. And if you watch my stuff, I've always spoken about my mother. So seeing moms today, and it's the first thing I've done. I went to the Arctic Summit. I didn't speak. And Veronica knows I've been really going through it. And so being here and you guys gave me some energy tonight. So I appreciate it too, And we're going for a ride. Now you said it, Shiloh's mom. I don't know your name. but Thank you all.
Oh, this has been
Oh,
such
thank
an
you.
amazing meeting, and I feel the energy, and it just keeps me wanting to keep going and fighting, and this
Good.
is what brings me life.
Good. Oh, there's one more thing I must say before my elders get mad at me. So there's so many traditions in Native community that I love, and one of the biggest ones is, do you know what how we refer to folks in the LGBT community or trans folk. You know what we call them?
Oh, wait,
Two-spirit.
I think I do. Yes, Two-Spirit. I
So
did
can
know
you
that.
imagine at a
Oh,
time where people treat folks and differently and less than, we say they have two spirits. Like we make them, we acknowledge that they're more powerful, right? Instead of making it a bad thing. It's like you're a two-spirited person. And I remember the first time I heard that, man, I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Instead of being so damn negative, but embracing the fact that this person is blessed with two spirits, right? And so it creates this dynamic that's very supporting and powerful. So as much as possible, I'll share as many indigenous things because it's very different and very healing.
Yes.
It's like when I do fire, I have a fire pit. I do fire ceremony. And people say, can you like my ex-husband get hit by a car? I'm like, no, we don't do bad. We don't do bad medicine. We do good medicine. We'll say we hope that he finds someone and goes away, but we won't wish him to get hit by a car. But just as an example, we do good medicine. That's what we try to focus on.
You were like meant to be in the space tonight with like all of us. I just can feel it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And reach out. You have my email. Reach
All
out.
right.
And if you want to talk, I'll give you my number. It's no big deal. But yeah, let's talk. Let's make something happen. And let's make sure we figure out how we get a lot of you to that conference.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
well,
Yeah.
we
All
will.
right.
We will. We'll get there. Don't worry. We'll see you there.
Good.
All right.
All right.
Good